I'm going to tell you very quickly about the BioInitiative report and simply report back to you about how it came together, what our objectives were, and what our conclusions were. I'm going to do this in 20 minutes because my very good friend Jeff Lean is here from the UK, and his message is so compelling that I've shared my time, and so we'll hurry through this. For those of you that would like a fuller description of the BioInitiative report, you can go to www.bioinitiative.org. You can download one or more chapters of that report and see it there. In 2006, a number of scientists, public health experts, and public policy people were meeting in Cancun in Mexico at the Bioelectromagnetic Society and came together at some level of frustration to be at yet another meeting of BEMS where there didn't appear to be recognition that the body of evidence for non-thermal or low-intensity effects with chronic exposure to non-ionizing radiation exists as an important body of science, and it wasn't causing people to then look at public health actions that might be warranted and so on. So this very small group of people came together to document those studies, which are done and published, peer-reviewed and good, as a group, and to see whether the weight of that evidence is sufficient today to be making for change in public health. And the highlights of the study that we produced, the BioInitiative report, are these. We had 14 international experts in 9 months produce a report. We specifically reviewed over 2,000 studies, and those were culled from about 10,000 from the authors overall. The overall conclusion about it was that the evidence there, the scientific evidence, is largely ignored or dismissed because it doesn't rise to the level of conclusive scientific evidence or proof, and therefore no actions are being taken to address it. An important finding, or perhaps translation, is that it isn't the heating that we should be concerned about, and that's how our existing standards govern exposures. But it's, in the broadest sense, if you choose one word, you might choose the word informational content. Something about the signal imparts information, and that information is important to the body, and the body responds. Therefore, the existing safety limits we have, which are based on the old theory of heating or thermal effects, are obsolete. There may be no lower limit that is safe. We don't know. And we do need new, and we're going to call them biologically based standards, that are relevant to the environmental levels at which we see effects occurring. And finally, children are most at risk. The areas that the chapters review, with the scientific chapters review within the report, include genotoxicity, brain tumors and acoustic neuroma, electrohypersensitivity and immune function is one chapter, childhood leukemia, male and female breast cancer, neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and ALS. Miscarriage and loss of fertility was intended to be included because there is a very large literature, but we lost the person who was able to do the work, so it's missing there. And then there were a number of neurological and behavioral effects that addressed insomnia, sleep disorders, memory impairment, cognitive function effects. Genotoxicity was a large chapter done by Henry Lai, and I won't read through this, but the conclusion is that there is substantial evidence that under some exposure conditions, RF is genotoxic, meaning it will damage DNA, create micronucleation, and extremely low frequency ELF, EMF has also been shown to be genotoxic and cause DNA damage, necessary precursor for cancer. Martin Blank's work was very essential on looking at stress proteins. And if you want a simple way of thinking about these are biomarkers that tell us that the cell is crying help. This is a mark of stress, a physiological marker, which indicates that the body is receiving some sort of a signal or an exposure that is adverse. And it could be heat, it could be heavy metals, it could be chemicals. And now, of course, ELF and RLF Both of these exposures create increases in this adaptive response, which is the generation of heat shock protein. So that's a really good benchmark. And it's occurring at energy inputs, if you will, about 1 billion times different, ELF and RF. So what's going on here isn't thermally mediated. Ole Johansson in Sweden did the immune function and electrohypersensitivity chapter. And summarizing, he documents very large changes in immune system biomarkers, allergic responses, inflammatory conditions, and negative effects on pregnancy he did not include but are also included in the overall literature. Effects on pregnancy, effects on fertility. Leonard Hardell, Kjell Hansen Mild, and Michael Kundi from Vienna handled the chapters on brain cancers in general and brain tumors and cell phones, acoustic neuromas in the specific. And Leonard Hardell, as you know, has created a body of science indicating that cell phone use at 10 years and longer, particularly where it's ipsilateral or where you use the cell phone on one side of your head more than the other, at 10 years and longer use at about an hour a day is related to about a doubling of risk of malignant brain tumor or glioma, and about the same for acoustic neuroma. And for children, Leonard Hardell's later work, not included in the BioInitiative, showed that it was something like a 5-fold or a 500 or more % increase for children who use cell phones in their early years and teen years. By the time they're in the 20 to 29 age group, they have more than a 500% increased risk of malignant brain tumor. Another important finding from the work of Hardell and others publishing on brain tumors and acoustic neuromas is that cordless phones are also implicated, cell phones and cordless phones. And of course, we're looking forward to the final interphone analysis, and I think most of you know what that is now. We're all waiting to see what they'll say. We know from the evidence that's already been published in advance of their final cumulative report that they're finding elevated risk at 10 years and longer use, not even ipsilateral. We want them to say so, and we're all watching to make sure the interphone study doesn't sort of hide that message down in a footnote somewhere. And we don't want to see an all-clear message, oh, except for the fact if you use one for a long time. And that's been the way with, science by press release for a very long time in this country and other countries. And we're on to them now. So we've been telling them in letters, and we've been telling them in phone calls. You people at Interphone, we really want to see the message. Look where you would expect to find it and tell us what you find. And it's, as Jeff and I keep saying, it's imminent, but we really don't know when they're going to publish. Anybody know here? Does anyone? No. All right, neurological effects were covered by Henry Lai in a very extensive chapter. He's done a huge amount of pioneering work. And generally, he's able to establish that under some exposure conditions, effects on neurophysiological and cognitive functions are well established. And these are established at levels that are everyday levels. They will be at cell phone, cordless phone, Wi-Fi, cell tower levels. I'm going to skip on here because my time is short. But I do want to point out that Michael Kundi, in his chapter in Pathophysiology, which is a new journal, special issue just issued, basically taking the BioInitiative and publishing it in a peer-reviewed journal. Michael has updated his BioInitiative chapter and found that we do see effects in studies reporting on cell tower level exposures of radio frequency down to about 0.01 microwatts per centimeter squared, but not below that.